perception, stealth, or survival. Yeah, strength for those is definitely not really justifiable. So here's a way to do it, I guess.
Where the fuck are the apples? Where are they?
Welcome to Monsters and Multiclass. I'm Ellie.
I'm Jared Bornagle.
And I'm Will Melden.
And on this episode, we are taking a look at the new Barbarian class added in the One D&D Player Handbook Playtest 5. Recently came out here in early 2023. We already did an overview, links at the top, kind of covering general thoughts on everything in here. And now we're going through each class individually, diving through it, talking about features, dissecting it in the way that we typically do. So yeah, the Barbarian class, there's nothing major. It's not like the Warlock where they completely changed up the casting or anything like that. It's just kind of been tweaked and tuned. I don't know if this is going to be a huge discussion to be had because there's also
there's always a huge discussion to be had. Ellie, are you new here?
Just because the aspect about the martial caster gap we talked about a lot in the fighter episode that we did already. Again, links at the top, and this is not introducing anything new, so I don't know if we want to completely rehab that. But diving into it, the concept of a barbarian in this is the same. Like the class distinction is not any different. We're not really need to talk about that. But right away at first level with rage, there is a difference there. It does the same stuff, but how it ends is different. So you still have resistance, bludgeoning, piercing, and slashing. You get increased rage damage, which I think is the same. I don't think that
it is. Yes.
Yeah. Same sort of progression. Strength advantage. Can't concentrate on spells. Can't cast spells, etc. But here's where it's different. The rage lasts until the end of your next turn, and it ends early if you don heavy armor, have the incapacitated condition. If your rage is still active on your next turn, you can extend the rage for another round by doing one or more of the following: make an attack roll against an enemy, force an enemy to make a saving throw, take a bonus action to extend your rage. Each time it's extended, it lasts until the end of your next turn. You can maintain rage for up to 10 minutes. And then the other number of rages, all the same. So there's a design tweak there of giving it more agency to the player where the rage is lasting based on your choices, not things being done to you, because previously you needed to be hit, or there was still, you could do damage, but a big thing was is if you take damage. I really like they gave the ability of just being able to do it from a bonus action.
Let me just kind of go over that real quick. You can still turn off a barbarian's rage by incapacitating them. That hasn't changed. But what you can't do is turn it off in an annoying way, such as fighting a bird. Fighting a bird was a barbarian's worst nightmare. And it led to things like, I punched myself in the face. And that's funny the first time, but it gets annoying. So I do like that the agency is still there while you still, as a DM, have tools to take it out of the toolbox. It's also worth noting that 10 minutes is a lot longer than 1 minute. Approximately 10 times as long.
Oh, yeah. I forgot that was only 1 minute currently in 5th edition.
Which is not that interesting until we get to some second level features.
I was going to say, in terms of combat, it's really rare for a combat to last more than an in-game minute. 10 rounds.
It might have something where now you can pre-rage if you want to, but that's not, seeing as it's a bonus action to start it, it's not like that's really a thing that's necessary most of the time, except for, like Will mentioned, the second level stuff, primal knowledge that we'll get to. One thing that we mentioned in our Warlock episode that we just recorded minutes ago, but released at least a week ago, who knows how things get released, was that the change of monsters to force damage is going to affect rage a lot. And I do want to talk about that while we're on the just rage concept, because I think that's really important when we look at buffs to rage. We also have to look at why is rage not going to be as good anymore. And so if you've been looking at monsters of the multiverse and how a lot of damage has been shifted around, a big thing is that instead of having magical attacks anymore, monsters would just do whatever their, maybe bludgeoning, piercing, slashing damage, and then force damage on top of it. So force damage is one of the things that falls into the no one has resistance to it category. Whereas before, barbarians were really pretty great with rage all throughout, because the bludgeoning, piercing, slashing always came up, even if it had magical bludgeoning, piercing, slashing. Is there a quicker way to say that? Even if they had normal BPS damage or magic BPS damage, it didn't matter because the barbarian's rage still
damage.
Or
Let's just call it physical damage.
Sure,
Yeah.
whatever makes life easier. That physical damage was always resisted, regardless of the barbarian or their subclass. Barbarian obviously had resistance to more stuff. With things being shifted over to force damage, it really makes Rage's main thing of having damage a lot less strong in the mid to high tier levels, which I'm not happy
Very
about.
much. Yeah. Yeah, I know there's a lot of the new monster abilities where it's not even like physical damage and then force, it's just it does force damage,
Yeah, and that's going to be really
which
upsetting
really
when your
stood out. Yeah.
main class feature is now boiled down to you do +3 damage per hit. And sure, your subclass might add a couple other things, but the having damage it's really key to Barbarian's playstyle, which is get up close, start swinging, and tank some hits, buddy.
But moving on from that, unarmored defense is the same, but then also at first you get weapon mastery, which is new. Fighters get this also at first. Training with weapons allows you to use the mastery property of two kinds. So I guess fighters get three kinds of similar or martial melee weapons of your choice. Whenever you finish a long rest, you could practice weapon drills and change these for another one. When you reach certain levels in this class, you gain the ability to use the mastery property of more kinds of weapons, as shown in the weapon mastery column of the Barbarian table. So weapon mastery is that big new thing we talked a lot in the overview and in the fighter video. Links at the top of both of those have been linked. YouTube doesn't let you link more than once. Never mind.
If those links weren't enough, go find it. Figure it out.
They're recent on our channel. Where if you have access to the mastery property of a certain weapon type and you attack with that weapon, it does something special. It varies on the weapon. This is their big thing to try and add more tactics and choice to martial classes. We've kind of collectively come to the agreement that it falls short of that because it's more like a character building thing. You kind of make the choice of the weapon you want to use, and you can't be like swapping these out constantly. And they're all sort of middling. It's nothing all that great and big and game changing. So it makes sense the barbarians have these, but very much would like to see a boost.
Yeah, and one thing that's going to be weird with weapon mastery, especially for barbarians, is usually you're going to see them using your great axes, your mauls and whatnot, your big punchers, right? And those are going to have things like, I don't know, topple, which I don't really care about knocking a creature prone when I have a way of gaining advantage anyways, and that has always been reckless attack. There's going to be some others. I mean, cleave, for example, can come up in the right situations. But overall, I'll say it again, but I won't dwell on the point. I just don't think masteries are the solution that they are sold to us as.
Yep, I agree. All right, moving on to second level, then they get primal knowledge. This is new. You gain proficiency in another. Was it new or just reworked? Hold on.
This is brand new.
Okay. Yeah. There's other things like primal blank that sounds similar. You gain proficiency in another skill of your choice from the list of skills available to the barbarian at first level. In addition, when your rage is active, you can channel primal power when you attempt certain tasks. Whenever you make an ability check using one of the following skills, you can make it as a strength check, even if you normally use a different ability. Skills being acrobatics, intimidation, perception, stealth, or survival. When you use this ability, your strength represents primal power coursing through and around you.
Hell yeah. So this actually did exist before as an optional class feature where you just got another skill. So that first part, already there.
Oh,
totally,
you're right. Okay.
Totally sucked. Totally useless. I have this on mine.
Just one additional.
I might as well not. I didn't even have anything that I had positives to. I dug myself out of the negative on something with my barbarian. But this, with your rage active, which is now 10 minutes, and you can maintain it with a bonus action, you can now do stuff well in combat. So when I was saying actually that Grigner wouldn't really use this, he kind of wouldn't, but it would come up. Especially remember with the last thing we were doing on the boat sinking adventure, where we that kind of worked, but we did kind of hand wave it. Now it is mechanical. You can rage
do you remember the specific situation? I'm trying to remember.
Yeah, Grigner was in the water raging after combat. We'd killed all the fish monsters, and I had to make athletics checks with advantage because I was raging to keep the boat afloat.
That's right.
That worked mechanically, but theoretically, I would have had to punch myself in the face. I had rages for days.
That's a good point. I actually
been that way.
I don't even remember if we talked about whether or not rage should persist. I forgot about that entirely.
Yeah.
Because
it didn't. But yeah, it didn't really matter.
No,
because my strength was high enough as it was. But now with the intimidation, you can walk into a meeting. That actually probably would come up with my character Grignir, who is insane. Walking into any situation and just raging and strength intimidating people for 10 minutes would be awesome.
So that's one that's allowed a lot anyways. That's a really, really common thing. It's
Yes.
even actually in the player handbook of allowing different ability scores with than like what's typical for a skill.
It might be the
Intimidation is one
DMG.
that's
Just minor point of clarification. That might not be in the player's handbook.
I think
either
But it doesn't
way.
matter.
It's yeah.
Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, like using strength for intimidation is super common. The other one's not so much. So like acrobatics, people try to use that. Okay, we use acrobatics instead of athletics. No, this is the other way around. Can I use acrobatics instead of Um,
Perception.
stealth, or survival. Yeah, strength for those is definitely not really justifiable. So here's a way to do
Where
it, I
the
guess.
fuck are the apples? Where are they?
Thank the heavens for normalize audio, because
Yes.
we do not get the grace of post Ellie editing, and that was just murder on my ears.
Yeah. Will actually, I'll usually. I have to when he gets like that. I usually have to manually turn him down, even with after compression and normalizing. It's still too much. It's like cut that section out and turn it down.
Amazing. So
You're the barbarian.
Yes, you are. And that's why we like you playing a barbarian at the table where sound isn't directly in my ear holes.
Yeah.
So it obviously says you can channel primal power when you make an attempt certain tasks. So the idea isn't that it's just your muscles doing this for you. It is like magic. And some people will get upset about that. I think I talked a lot about it in our UA coverage episode, so I won't dwell on it too long. But I'm totally okay with this as a concept, the idea of it being through your strength. It's your magic. You can say that barbarians aren't magic, but barbarians are magic. Just like 90% of what they do is hit stuff magic instead of making fire magic.
Right. Also, I don't know, like eyes are muscles. They use muscles to move them. So you just got you get so mad, your eye muscles just get super jacked and you can see things better.
No, that's not how it works. And I need you to stop.
That is exactly how it works.
It's how they move.
Yes. I did also say in the UA episode that I do not like this couple to the rage ability.
Yes, exactly.
I still stand by that, where I do think there's situations where it makes sense that you're still raging. So I guess this is up and you just kind of get it for free. Great. But I think this should be tied to your strength modifier per long rest instead of your rages, which are a very valuable resource. And running out of them just completely cuts off your entire class. I mean, it would be like if the monk had an ability that if they use too often, they'd no longer be able to punch as a bonus action. It's just not a great way to have a resource on the barbarian.
I 100% agree. We talked about that in the overview one, and same place with it. That's the only change I would make. All right, reckless attack is the exact same. Third, fourth, fifth, all kind of same stuff. Subclasses, feats, extra attacks, extra movements. Seventh, feral instincts. I think that's exactly.
No, it's not. And I'm going to actually jump in because there was something at second level that was removed and then got put into that seventh level feature. So danger sense was a second level barbarian ability, which was you have advantage on dexterity saving throws against effects you can see, such as traps and spells. To gain this benefit, you can't be blinded, deafened, or incapacitated. Which seems silly to me that it says things you can see and then it's like, oh, but also you have to hear. So which one is it? Choose. Right. Either way, that is removed from second level and is put into feral instinct at seventh.
Right, which your instincts are so honed that you have advantage on initiative rolls and dexterity saving throws. So just kind of a bigger boost with that, a little less situational. And then just put it all together. I guess I don't feel that strongly about them doing that.
It's cleaner. I think at second level it was, I don't want to say it was too strong. I'm not going to like die on that hill, but I'm not mad about it being seventh level. I think that's really what it comes down to for me. Will, do you have strong opinions as a barbarian player?
It just didn't need to be its own thing. This is where it belonged.
Cool.
All right. 8th is a feat. 9th, Indomitable Might. Used to be an 18th level ability. Moved it all the way up to 9th. If your total for a strength check is less than your strength score, you could use that score in place of the total. I like seeing that a lot sooner. It's again more kind of to at least some degree an out of combat utility thing. It does pair well with the primal knowledge at second.
I hate any ability that removes the chance of failure. I've said this about the Bard subclass, College of
Eloquence.
Eloquence, where you can
Hmm.
like by default, if you fail or if you roll, you at minimum get a 10, and it's like a really low level feature, and it means that every single persuasion check is going to be at 20, 21, 22, and we're seeing that in our game right now, and I think it is a just not fun feature. I see why this is not as strong, because strength is usually less great than persuasion, but at the same time, now with the ability to use primal knowledge and have other skills rely on strength, that means that you're going to be default getting a 20 by ninth level on just about
Hmm.
all of those. I want to see stuff for barbarians out of combat, but this isn't really where I want to see it, because it removes the chance of failure, and I don't like that. I don't like when failure is removed.
Hey, you know what's cool? It's limited by
Ha.
rages.
Yeah, I guess. You're right. You're right. So maybe that's a reason why it should be tied to rage, because at ninth level it just gets so strong. But I don't know. I would rather see
I
it's weaker, so maybe it needs more than this. But my tweak would be you get to add your rage bonus to any strength check.
That sucks. I
That's
hate that.
really
I would
low.
be
As I
so
say,
mad if
that's a
that
start.
happened.
That's a start. I
I'd
think
rather
that's
someone hit me in the face with a friggin' crowbar than have that feature in a character I was playing.
Let's do it.
But
Come here.
Yeah.
I kind of agree with you, but only in that narrow sense where you've got these kind of fickle skills like persuasion or deception that it doesn't feel great when they always work. Strength checks, I have less of an issue with. Ninth level, as a barbarian, I feel like 20 should be what you fall back on. It's like that's your minimum.
It
Anything else
kind of
is
comes up pretty
silly.
often, anyways. Like you usually have pretty. I mean, what's your plus? I actually have your character up
It's
right
only
now,
like
so I
plus
can
9,
answer
right?
this. Only +9. I mean, that's pretty high. Your athletics is actually +8.
Yeah, and
So
I'm not maxed out on my strength. That's
you're
just
not.
weird
You're
character
right. Yeah.
choice. So it's I think you should be able to rely on that, and this is less of a problem. And I actually kind of like with the rage limited primal knowledge being able to rage your way through some interesting non-combat encounters.
Okay. I guess I can agree with that. It would be the equivalent of if somebody cast a third level, fourth level spell and was able to get through some non combat related things. If the barbarian raged and then they started shoving through doors and knocking those down and doing it successfully every time because they spent a rage, I guess, and this isn't even, you don't have to spend the rage. You actually get Indomitable Might regardless, but
Hmm.
raging gives you advantage on it so that you're likely going to get higher anyways. Um, yeah, I don't know. I guess I'm on the fence with it. It's not as bad as having a 22 on every single one of your persuasion checks, though. That is without a doubt a fact.
I say I could tell you love that at the table.
It's just it. I've talked about it with the player. Like it's like I'm gonna throw you a bone every once in a while, but like that class feature means that I just have to make DCs higher a lot of the times, or just not make you roll. So like you might think that you're not getting it, but really I'm just like, there's no point to making you roll for this. Yes, they agree with you.
Right. All right, moving on. At 11th, Brutal Critical. This used to come out at 9th. Now it's at 11th and just been tweaked a bit. When you score a critical hit with a weapon or unarmed strike using strength, the target takes extra damage equal to your barbarian level. That damage is the same type dealt by the weapon or unarmed strike. So 2 levels later, but it was, you would get extra weapon die on the crit, and you like get to roll an extra die, and then that will go up as you level. Now it's just this kind of flat bonus that goes up every level. I think it works out to more because I mean
It
you're getting
does.
11. Yeah, it definitely does. Yeah. Well,
Yes.
it's there's weirdness with it because like then at 13th you get it again. Now you roll 2 additional weapon die. And if your weapon die is a
Still works out better.
D12, well,
D12
if you got
average damage is 6.5. So at 13th
sure,
level, that
but
would
I
be
mean crits are
exactly
so
13.
swingy. You're probably not really working with averages. Is what I'm getting at with that. It's like you roll 2 D12, so it has a potential to be a lot higher. That's
Right.
what I'm getting. It's like sure averages, yeah, but like I said, you're not critting so many times where you're having this like huge pool of numbers where you're going to get a nice bell curve of averages, and so It could still
Yeah,
be
you're
sweet.
actually this actually kind of saves it from being total crap, especially when you're doing the D12 thing because you roll 3 1s on those and it's just the worst feeling in the
Yeah.
world.
Yeah,
It
I
makes it more
appreciate the
consistent. I like
consistency.
it. Yeah.
I
Though
think
there is the
everything
fun of
they
just
should get
throwing a
rid of
lot of
dice
dice, but
entirely.
Y'all both spoke at the same time. I didn't hear either of you, and I doubt listeners did.
We're getting rid of dice. All things are flat numbers now.
That's a good idea.
Your great
Actually, I was
axe now
saying the
does
opposite.
6.5 damage.
There's a lot of fun in throwing a lot of dice.
That's not
But
wrong.
yeah.
It's not.
Yeah.
I think when you played a level 20 barbarian for a one shot, and I remember you getting crits with your D12s, and it was silly rolling like 4. I don't remember why. I think you were like 8 D12s or something.
There was
at
an
one point
extra
for some
one because I
reason.
had the orcish extra crit.
That was it. Yeah, that
But
was
it was
goofy.
silly. It was fun. I had a lot of fun rolling that many D12s, even if it was digital. It was just fun to see them dance across the screen and pop up and it's like, what a silly number to come up on a melee attack. What a silly time I've had.
Yeah. So I guess with this, you're not going to see the 120 damage from one melee attack, but
All right. At 15th, Relentless Rage. This came online at 11th. Now it's at 15th. So a lot of things are just kind of swapped around a bit.
did you
just
skip
kind
over
of-
persistent rage?
Oh, I did. I'm sorry. Yeah. Persistent Rage came on at 15th. Now it's 13th. So again, still more of that little stuff. Basically, you don't need to do anything to maintain your rage for the 10 minutes. Still, but if you're incapacitated or down heavy armor, it still ends.
This one's kind of feat dependent, right? Like, because unless you're getting a better use of your bonus action, it doesn't really matter.
It still doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Why do you say that, Will?
There's very few situations where you needed the bonus action to begin with because you just
Sure.
did something or force them to make a saving throw, which is even rare. But it just very rarely runs into itself. That's like the fallback. So this is fine. It just doesn't, it matters so much less now.
That's fair.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, I would almost rather see that was just take it out, replace it with something else. They kind of took care of it with the new rage. Okay, now at 15th, Relentless Rage. Used to come online at 11th. Another small tweak. This is the one where if you drop to 0 hit points while your rage is active and you don't die outright, you can make a DC 10 con save. The other one said you would come back with 1 hit point. This is if you succeed, your hit points instead change to a number equal to twice your barbarian level. Each time you use this feature after the DC increases by 5, and that resets back to 10 after a short or long rest. So that's all the same. Like I said, it's a few levels later, but you get a lot more health. That feels a lot more useful. Like you would come back with 30 health when you get this.
Yeah, in theory, it could be up to 60 if the thing you're fighting doesn't do force damage, which it will when you're 15th level. Whatever you're fighting will do force damage or some other type. But still, 30 means that you can realistically take another hit. Overall, this is just a good increase, and I think you're probably going to succeed a couple of these in a row. I mean, a DC 10 is nothing at 15th level for a barbarian, seeing as they get proficiency in Constitution saving throws. Grignir right now is level 9, plus 9 to Constitution. With that, you've got plus 5 to Constitution, so it's a plus 9 to your saving throw. I think it'd be a plus 10 actually by 15th level, if not higher. You're going to save that first one every single time, and you're realistically going to save the second one like most times.
Yeah.
The level when it goes to 20, you're probably going to save it most times. This is going to come up more than once when you go up to 0.
Right, and since you're not just coming back at 1 hit point, it's going to take longer to keep doing it. Like on the older version, you would get up to 15, 20, 25 really quick.
Yes.
Because you're just at 1, and then you're down again. All right, maybe make the save. Like it could happen all in the same turn with multi-attack.
Easily.
Right, because this isn't like reaction or anything, right?
Correct.
I don't think so. No, yeah, so. All right, at 17th, Rage Resurgence, this is new. Whenever you roll initiative, you regain 1 expended use of your rage. So at 20th, the cap part of the capstone for Barbarian used to be you get infinite rages. This is kind of their new way of doing it, which I guess they kind of didn't need to do with now rage being a resource for something else. So at first it kind of feels like it fixes that issue about rage being such a small resource that's tied to something out of combat sucks, but it's like you can't get this outside of combat, and it's just once, and you don't get this till 17th, which you good chance you're not going to see anyways.
Yeah,
So
I'm okay with it, I guess. Um, and I like the fact that it's not if you're out of rages, you regain one. It's just you regain one expended use of your rage. That
mhm.
does feel better than what other capstones were in 5th edition that were
Oh,
very much
right.
like if you're out, like if you have no key points, then you can regain key. I think that's what it was, which was obviously silly because I've got 3 left and it's like, oh, sorry, you only get 1 key point this time or whatever. It didn't feel great. This, yeah, you can basically use up your rages out of combat and know that if shit hits the fan, you're going to have rage available, even if it's just once.
Yep.
It's tough to run out of rages. You've almost done it in this campaign, I think.
I've done
one
it
time.
twice in this campaign, and it mostly involved you yo-yoing.
Yeah. If you are not killing your players, which is by
Hard to do for
17th level,
barbarians.
it's whatever. Your relentless rage is going to prevent that for the most part. But in normal non-yo-yo play, it just doesn't come up that much. And now it's 10 minutes, so your big marathon like fortress assault, so to speak, where you're going from combat to combat, theoretically doesn't even need you raging and raging and raging.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
Mhm.
For those marathon combats, you are going to see, instead of needing to rage, as you said, 3 or 4 times, it might just be that one. So yeah, I, I think having it unlimited would definitely be too much. So this one's fine. It gets a pass.
All right, and then at 18th Primal Champion, this was the old 20th capstone. Moved to 18th. Your strength and con scores increased by 2, and their maximum is now 22. Small note, in 5th edition, its maximum is now 24.
Yes,
Um,
that's a big
oh,
note.
and it's increased by 4 too, isn't it?
Yes.
Yes. Okay, so they halved it all around. I thought it was still increased by 2, but up to 24. Then, as I said that out loud, that doesn't make any sense because I don't know why they do that. Yeah, because now I guess my guess is the thought is at 20 to get epic boon, where you choose your strength or con score, increase that by 2, and its maximum is now 30.
And
But
you
it's
get an
just
epic
one.
boon, which epic
Yeah,
boon usually increases it by 1 for whichever you choose. If you choose an epic boon related to strength or constitution,
mm-hmm.
it like kind of works out to be the same, but it's
It's not.
just
It's
not
less.
there.
Yeah,
Yeah, it ends up being less. But also, I
but it
don't know
doesn't
if
feel
I'm.
that strong.
Yeah,
Yeah,
like I
I
don't
think
think it's
all
that
right.
big a deal. I know, like Will, this was one of your favorite capstones because you're like, yes, I just get to be a better barbarian across the board, and like you still do. It's just a 5% increase instead of a 10% increase.
It's really a function of how silly it gets. I thought level 20 was just a very silly time to be a barbarian.
Yeah,
I had a silly, wonderful time, and now it's pretty silly, but it's not off the chain silly. Is how I would
my
describe
whimsy
that.
has been decreased, but not entirely diminished.
Yeah. There's no more unlimited rages, no more 24 strength and con, but you're still basically there.
Mm-hmm.
The
All
only
right.
thing is, I just want to see more out of combat stuff. Once again, I'll say it until I die.
I'm super happy with how this came out. I think this is the best they could possibly do. I think anything else would end up sucking.
You're wrong, and you will see why when they listen to me and make the exact class that I want. To the berserker.
Yeah, well, I was gonna say I don't have any super strong feelings about the court class here. It is just a tweaking and a tuning of what already exists. It fills the same role. It's not doing anything groundbreaking. A bit of out of combat stuff. It still really pales in comparison to what spellcasters could do, especially at higher levels. And that still is a problem that exists, and I think forever will in this edition. Um, so yeah, Berserker. Berserker's cool. We talked about that in the UA. They fixed the Berserker. I'm happy with it.
We didn't. That's literally all we said about it in
I
the
know.
discussion.
Yeah. Oh, I know. I'm saying it again. I'm
Okay,
restating
okay.
it before we
I
get
th-
into it.
I thought you were gonna be like, "Thanks for watching."
No. So yeah, the Berserker Path of the Berserker is the subclass they chose to redo here. The reason it sucks in the player handbook is the frenzy ability, and like what the subclass is built around is when you rage, you can enter a frenzy, and then you get an extra bonus attack that you could do, I think, as a bonus action, if I'm remembering
Yes.
correctly. And then at the end of it, you become exhausted. And that's like such a big cost for one extra attack when there's other ways to get other bonus action attacks. It's not worth it. So here they have frenzy, and you could go into frenzy in battle. If you use reckless attack while your rage is active, you deal extra damage to the first target you hit on your turn with a strength-based attack. To determine extra damage, roll a number of d6s equal to your rage damage bonus and add them together. The damage is the same type as the weapon or unarmed strike used for the attack. So much better.
Hell
So
yeah!
Yeah.
Yeah. I actually
It's
wanted
cool.
to,
It's fun.
I wanted to ask you, Will, because you're playing a zealot barbarian now. If this was the barbarian when you chose your subclass, would you have gone with this instead?
Oh, absolutely.
That's what I thought. I mean, you play very like flavor neutral stuff and characters, which is totally fine, and you've played the zealot just fine. But I wouldn't be surprised to see you be like, I want to go for this basic one because it's fucking dope now.
Yeah, no, the zealot I liked because it wasn't too meta, and it was kind of what I was going for with my character, who is kind of like the death-seeking berserker. But I couldn't play a berserker because the berserker literally shoots itself in the face as soon as it steps out the gate. The old frenzy was just broken and unusable. You could not use it. It was broken. This one is awesome. That's awesome, and I love it. Think of all the dice. Increase. And that
2d6
crits too, doesn't it?
Well, that's
phrasing's a little weird. I wasn't sure on that.
You deal extra damage to the first target you hit.
I would say that crits.
Okay, I'm trying to remember because the rogue sneak attacks and paladin smites officially do not crit anymore, and I don't know what.
Yeah, and I'm saying this one does, so it does.
And with this, even as you're looking it up, managed to keep the flavor of there being a penalty and a choice with the frenzy thing, without it being just a complete detriment and a choice you generally want to make anyways, but it still kind of has that flavor of like a little bit of losing control and making yourself more likely to get hurt or killed but you get to do more stuff, where it happens on a reckless attack, which is usually a worthwhile choice anyways, and something the barbarian's going to make, so it doesn't feel awful to keep making that choice. And this gives you even more reason to do it, but it does open you up more. So they still actually managed to fix it while keeping that same flavor, which I think was really impressive. Because all our fixes were like, just get rid of the negative and make it nothing but positive. But it's like, well, that's not really the flavor.
So, looked it up. In the rogue sneak attack, it says, once on each of your turns, when you take the attack action, you can deal extra damage to one creature you hit with an attack roll if you're attacking with a finesse weapon or ranged. So, I guess my gut tells me that this wouldn't crit, because that's more or less saying across the board we're dealing extra damage. Because it says you can deal extra damage to one creature you hit. This says you deal extra damage to the first target you hit on your turn.
Where are you seeing that wording doesn't crit? Because based on what you said there, I would think sneak attack would crit. Still.
I genuinely do not remember, but that is
they
consensus.
Changed critical hits. They didn't change any of the classes. They were like, oh yeah, critical hits are when you do one more damage die, and monsters can't do it anymore. And they haven't talked about it again. I feel like people are going to riot if that continues.
I'm trying to find the critical hit rules now, and I cannot.
Was that the second one?
I think it's in expert, because that's when everybody started freaking out about it.
It's in character origins. No, it was the first one.
Oh, first one.
The attack is also a critical hit, which means it deals extra damage to the target. You roll the damage dice of the weapon or unarmed strike a second time and add the second roll as extra damage to the target.
Okay. All right. So yeah, that's basically saying that only the weapon damage dice crits, unless it specifies like in brutal critical. So in this case, that's not adding to the weapon damage, it's adding to the attack damage. So
right, but it still crits.
Frenzy does not crit. Thank you, Will, for confusing everyone. Frenzy rage damage does not crit.
I would like it to crit. I would also like sneak attack to crit. I would like smites to crit, but
it's gonna crit.
Maybe not smites, just because fuck paladins. But
paladins in particular, no crit. Sorry.
Yeah, my dad works at WotC. It's gonna crit.
Paladin's got enough of a boost.
I would honestly, I'm going to leave that one up to the math nerds, and they can tell me whether or not crit should stay.
Let me look it up.
Because
Yep.
as
No, it should stay. It should crit.
Because anything I've ever seen says that rogues need that in order to maintain a similar damage presence as fighters and barbarians. Fighters and barbarians are getting a massive boost to damage from what I've seen. So taking away their ability to crit, it definitely seems like that's going to be a massive nerf if they don't revert it.
All right, moving on though. At 6, you get mindless rage, which is almost the same. So you have immunity to charmed and frightened condition while your rage is active. If you are charmed or frightened when you enter your rage, the condition ends on you. What this was previously just is suppressed until your rage ends, which is kind of silly how it just comes back, and made some weird rules things about like, all right, and there's 30 seconds left at your rage for a minute. Is it? Yeah, they fixed all that.
I'm going to keep punching myself in the face until this charm condition ends.
So I like this, just completely mute it and end it. If there is a character you don't want charmed to be attacking the rest of the party, it's the berserker barbarian now.
That never comes up with us.
Yeah. I was going to say, Will's character, the zealot barbarian, who also does hit very, very hard, has been the constant target of charms and possessions and whatnot to get him to attack the rest of the party.
Remember when you
It's
almost
always
got
a
Zephyr?
fun
Stop
time.
Yeah.
Everyone always has a blast.
Actually, you legitimately killed a PC. I
Yep.
forgot. That is how Sojiro died. From Will getting charmed by the genie, and killing that character. And then
it
we
would
could
have
not bring him
happened
back.
It would have happened to Saffron too if it wasn't for that pesky suggestion spell.
So yeah, protection against that is nice. But it's nothing too new. Like the 5th edition gets this too. All right, 10th, retaliation. This was just moved from 14th, but everything else is the same. When you take damage from a creature that is within 5 feet of you, you can use your reaction to make one melee attack against that creature using a weapon or an unarmed strike. Again, I like that. Like I said, it's not new, but it's one of those abilities like, okay, that's a cool ability, but it's came on late in the subclass that is worthless up till that point. So it's like, yeah, okay, that exists, but I don't care about it. All right, now, since the stuff before it's solid and Frenzy's been fixed and the subclass as a whole has been fixed and it comes online earlier, I'm more interested in it. I like it.
Agreed. Fitting for a barbarian. This feels like the most barbarian, and that is what this subclass should be.
Yep, 100% agree. Just a little note here, it doesn't work with Frenzy because Reckless Attack is on your turn only. And also Frenzy is the first target hit on your turn. And this isn't your turn. So Retaliation doesn't stack with that. Just something to note. And then finally, Intimidating Presence. They used to get this at 10, now it's 14. So the Barbarian has just a lot of those level swapping rounds for whatever reason. I'm sure just kind of fiddly, balancy stuff to make it work out better. Again, the Berserker had this. This has just been improved a bit. So as an action, you can strike terror into others with your menacing presence as you swell with primal power. When you do so, each creature of your choice within 30 feet of you or 60 feet of you while your rage is active must make a wisdom saving throw, which is 8 plus your proficiency bonus plus your strength mod, provided the creature is in behind total cover. On a failed save, a creature that is the frightened condition... On a failed save, a creature has the frightened condition for 1 minute. At the end of each of the frightened creature's turn, the creature repeats the saving throw, ending the effect on itself on a successful save. Once you use this feature, you can't use it again until you finish the long rest. If you run out of uses of this feature, you could expand a use of your rage, choosing not to activate it, the rage, and then activating Intimidating Presence again. So the biggest thing is that it's in the design notes. Moved from 10th to 14th, it can affect a group of creatures rather than only one, and your rage extends its range, and you don't have to spend your action to extend its duration.
I kind of would like and maybe this is too much, but I'm not a huge fan of the frightened condition, as I've mentioned tons of times. I just don't think it's that strong, and I feel like WotC kind of overestimates how useful it is. Maybe I'm wrong. But I would like to see just when you rage, being able to use this Intimidating Presence. Like you start your
Cool.
combat,
okay.
You rage, and Intimidating Presence goes out. Boom. You've now started combat, and you have terrified everybody with how badass you are as the Berserker. I don't want to use another rage for it. I don't want it to be next turn either. I just want it. Give me it now.
Yep.
I like that. Yeah.
The original, the OG of this was just utterly unworkable because it was your charisma.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Which made sense in somebody's deranged fever dream. They're like, oh yeah, that logically makes sense, but they just rammed it into the berserker barbarian.
Yes. 8
And then
plus
you have
proficiency
to,
bonus plus charisma modifier. And it was frightened until the end of your next turn. I think this is,
and then you use your action to extend it. I can't think of a better way to self nerf yourself as a barbarian than to waste your action on that crap.
yeah.
It's just dumb. And what do you get? They're
Yeah,
frightened
right?
of you. It's like,
You just keep chasing them and just keep maintaining it. And you're like, I'm going to get you, but not this turn. I got to spend my action to keep freaking you out, I guess.
yeah, you're gonna like what, push them away with your aura of fear. It's just nonsense. But it still actually kind of sucks because that action, I think you're right, it should be your battle yawp.
Yep.
Because I yawp every time we roll initiative. Grignir yawps, and you're intimidated.
And it is, and that I think that fits what they're going for too. I mean, that's a small tweak, but I think would actually boost this a lot. And even if they don't do this, I feel like that's like I've been looking at a lot of these features, and it's like I know we're not just going to switch to One D&D stuff that's in playtest midway through, but I see stuff like this, and I'm like, I should steal that for a feature to give you all, because why not? I mean, I would love to see Grignir with intimidating presence that just when you start combat and you rage, this happens at high levels. I'm not saying at 9th, but when you get to 14th or 15th, that sounds cool as heck.
Yeah, I think again, doesn't take an action. AoE frightened for barbarians really solid because they're gonna have disadvantage on all the attacks against you. So it makes doing reckless attack even more tempting.
It also,
because they're not going to get advantage then.
Good point. It also, I'd say, gives the barbarian a way to force a saving throw on a big boss. I know wisdom saving throws generally are pretty high for your boss type enemies because wisdom saving throws can be so debilitating. But I could very much see barbarian throws this out and burns a legendary resistance, something that usually barbarians have a really hard time of doing. So I'm a big fan of that.
Yeah, definitely. But yeah, overall, kind of like said, and we were saying, love the new berserker.
Yeah, not as much as I love. Oh no, I'll just say
not
as. Will, stop it right now. Not as much as I love saving 10% off dice using the code MM10 on fanrolldice.com. Go ahead.
Yeah, you can save 10% on any order. it stacks with sales. I can't believe the deals we have got our fans with Fanroll Dice.
What were you going to say?
I was just going to say that they knocked it out of the park of the two worst things in the first printing of D&D. This is the happiest I've been with WotC in a very long time. The shittiest of shit with Champion and Berserker, the just worst of the worst, is now stuff that I'm like, wow, that's pretty dope.
Yeah. As much as I can complain about, I wish there was more of this, I wish there's more of this. If you just took these right now and slapped them into your 5th edition game, I agree. I think it is a overall boon across the board.
Yeah,
and that's just in terms of power, in terms of fun too.
Yeah, this is the first thing I could say probably you should steal just immediately. If you're running a campaign and someone wants to play the One D&D Berserker or Champion, there's almost zero reason not to let them.
Yeah.
Will, do you want to change to Berserker Barbarian?
No.
It'll mean that your character can die now.
Yeah, let's not do that.
That's what I thought.
Like, there's so many D6s. Oh.
Any other closing thoughts, Ellie?
No.
Okay, thank you as always to our patrons, Cameron C., Edgy, Craig A., Brian H., Isaac M., Jess W., Star Shinobi, McKinnon T., Vincent M., Barons, Bob F., Gray, Joe P., Muddawait, Rick D., Sensibility20, Tyler S., Adam A., Rob K., and Sir Laugh-A-Lot. If you want to join the Patreon, you can head on over to monstermulticlass.com/support, where you can get early access to episodes most of the time, as well as show notes. And if you want to support us in other ways, you can same link, monstersmeltclass.com/support. Find our affiliates like Fanroll Dice. And like Will was very enthusiastically saying, I mean, the 10% stacks with sales, and they always have sales. So I mean, just do it. Just buy dice. Buy your dice. Use the code MM10.
And as always, thanks.
Wait, like, comment, and subscribe. Goodbye.
Bye. Thanks for watching.